Unit 8, Lesson 4, The Peacemaker's Approach to Power. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conflict Resolution and Peacemaking, the class that teaches you how to manage interpersonal conflict and drama for yourself and others. I'm your instructor, David Lowry. In this series of lessons, we have overviewed the role of power and its impact on peacemaking. We've noted that power isn't just for the rich and famous. It's something that all of us possess to one extent or the other. Besides looking at definitions and components of power, we've discussed some of the dark faces of powers and noticed how it is used to abuse and manipulate people. We also examined the not-so-subtle power of social privilege, which is heavily embedded in the fabric of society. In today's lesson, we will discuss the peacemaking approach to power, a peacemaker's approach to power. As we have stressed throughout this course, we believe in the power of relational communication, or those practices which foster respect and understanding between people. This is especially true where power is concerned. In peacemaking, we try to shift power and decision-making from the hands of a few who may hold it by their authority, social standing, or other resources to qualified others who would use it to the benefit of all concerned. Respect for power and authority. Peacemakers are not anti-power. They fully respect power and those who have it. In addition to personal power, we all benefit from good men and women who use their influence wisely. Government officials, judges, police, corporate leaders, and others who use their legitimate power to benefit others fully deserve our respect and honor. Power is necessary for doing good. Peacemakers also respect power because we know it is necessary to do good and build a society that protects and cares for the weakest among us. There are many examples of rich and powerful men and women who use their great wealth to benefit humankind. Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft Corporation, uses his tremendous wealth to help find a cure for malaria, an illness that has been the scourge of millions. Oprah Winfrey spends millions of her earnings to help educate the people of third world nations and teach them leadership skills. Warren Buffett, the famous investing mogul, has given away more than $46 billion to charities worldwide. And Dolly Parton sends millions of books to children worldwide to help them learn to read. If we had time, we could mention thousands more. Many additional names deserve mention because they have used their tremendous wealth to build churches, hospitals, universities, entertainment venues, and more to help people in their local communities. The next time you think about it, look around your hometown or the university you may be attending and notice the names of the many men and women on civic buildings throughout your community. Peacemakers seek to eliminate barriers. Peacemakers also seek to break down barriers that have arisen between individuals or groups of unequal power. And while it would be foolish to think that peacemakers could equalize power throughout society, we can help others see the benefit of using their power in collaborative and participatory ways. The peacemaker's approach to managing power is by relational communication approaches that shares power with all stakeholders while encouraging respect, openness, transparency, participatory decision-making, and interest-based negotiations. Peacemakers believe in shared power. As we said earlier, peacemakers are not anti-power, but we are against abusing power. It was Lord Acton, the British historian of the 19th century, who observed, "Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely." Peacemakers respect this truism and believe it is better when power has checks and balances and is spread more broadly. One way to do this is to encourage people and organizations to share, whenever possible, decision-making power with those who are the most qualified instead of concentrating power on a select few at the top. Marshall Goldsmith of the Harvard Business Review explains how to do this. As leadership is flattened, a low span of hierarchy, power, authority, and decision-making are more widely and deeply dispersed laterally and vertically. According to Goldsmith, deferring to others when they have more expertise means that everyone can show prowess in the company. One of the benefits of this approach is that organizations that do this will soon be filled with many additional influential people instead of the few they presently have. This change can catalyze even greater power and position in the marketplace. Peacemakers seek to minimize power differentials. One of the ways that peacemakers can spot potential power differentials is to notice times in the discussion when participants appear to be resorting to positional bargaining strategies as opposed to collaborative approaches. And while power differentials will inevitably exist between people and groups, mediators can help account for these differences by encouraging interest-based techniques that strive to deal with the real needs and interests of all concerned. Peacemakers encourage open communication. In addition to respecting power and spreading it broadly, peacemakers also support interpersonal relational processes that include open communication. Open communication allows people to share their thoughts and concerns, good and bad, without the fear of retaliation. This helps solve a crucial organizational problem known as organizational silence. Organizational silence. When power is accumulated at the top, people are often reluctant to speak about organizational problems and keep them hidden from top management. At other times, it means that the organization finds it more convenient to ignore difficulties because of the possible financial ruin that could happen to them. For instance, for years, there were rumors of sexual harassment scandals within the respected Fox News organization, yet they refused to take significant steps to eliminate it. Later, after numerous instances came to light, Fox lost many top executives and paid millions in settlements. Communication openness. As a communication concept, Rogers created one of the first social scientific instruments to measure perceived communication openness. Rogers found that openness consists of communicating and receiving good ideas, bad ideas, complaints, suggestions, and personal opinions. As a peacemaking concept, peacemakers often act as mediators between individuals and groups through reframing, creating safe spaces that helps all sides receive messages that might be considered harmful or unfavorable. Once people's concern for good or ill are expressed, the mediator can often lead parties to a constructive resolution. Peacemakers encourage transparency over secrecy. Transparency is another value related to power that peacemakers seek. The actual meaning of the word transparent means to be able to see through. According to an American Psychological Association survey, nearly 25% don't trust their employees, and only half believe employees are upfront with them. Transparency is conducting business and personal affairs so that others can see and know what is happening. This helps to build organizational trust. When power is concentrated in the hands of a few and coupled with low transparency, the potential for abuse dramatically increases. Power and secrecy. Schweitzer and Waits noticed that power and secrecy often go hand in hand. In their research, they found that individuals who were made to feel powerful were less likely to share secrets about an organization and were more likely to approve of non-compete agreements in employment contracts. On the other hand, transparency allows people to see how and why a decision was made. Transparent communication strives for honesty, accuracy, feedback, respect, and a willingness to admit wrongs if necessary. And here's another fact to consider about secrecy. Peacemakers are supportive of transparency because they know that when data is widely available to people, it is possible to make better decisions than when the data is filtered or hidden because of a fear of transparency. When problems arise, transparency allows people to find solutions and make helpful changes earlier than they would otherwise with limited information. Peacemakers encourage consensus building. Another essential part of the peacemaking process is to employ participatory decision-making processes such as consensus building. Consensus approaches are widely used in organizations such as senior-level management teams, where team members discuss relevant ideas and opinions until they can find the best possible solution given the circumstances. As a concept, consensus may be defined in various ways according to participants' wishes. For some, it means making unanimous decisions where all agree. Other consensus approaches require only partial agreement and consider unanimity one of the many possible consensus outcomes. The 7 steps of consensus. According to Hartnett, there are 7 steps to the consensus process: framing the topic, open discussion, identifying concerns, collaborative proposal development, choosing a direction, synthesizing a final proposal, and closure. Depending on the complexity of the problem, Hartnett says that some of the steps may only sometimes be used. For relatively simple problems, one may need only to open a discussion, choose a direction to follow, then reach a final consensus agreement. However, for more complex problems, it may be necessary to convene committees for one or more of the critical 7 steps. Each of these 7 steps provides peacemakers with an effective process for giving voice to all participants and an opportunity for creating mutually agreeable outcomes. This process can be quickly learned and mastered with a bit of practice. Consensus-oriented decision-making. Consensus making is a participatory process where stakeholders are invited to attend decision-making meetings and present their opinions and ideas. The end goal of this kind of meeting structure is to create an outcome in the form of a clear decision or rule. The notion is that people create better solutions together than individually. By listening and working with each other, people can create workable solutions instead of fighting one another through positional demands and fights for superiority. The collective interest-based approach is used by many organizations and is gaining national attention. Interestingly, we found a web page in the main Labor Relations Board which outlines the process and would like to briefly share their approach. First, they have initial preparations. This is where parties agree to the interest-based bargaining process and choose a facilitator or mediator. They will also schedule a series of meetings to conduct the bargaining. 2, they prepare to meet with constituents. Most parties are used to positional bargaining, where they rely on personal power and organization to force an agreement from the other. The facilitator explains the interest position process to each group so they can be prepared to act not only in their interest, but come prepared with potential ideas to help the other side. 3, each side will have opening statements. Once the meetings begin, each side explains their needs, ideas, and anything else deemed as necessary for the negotiations. Number 4, they make a list of standards. At this stage of the process, both sides explain what it takes to make an acceptable agreement and the standards each side will use to determine this. For instance, the agreement must be affordable, fair, legal, meet stakeholder group expectations, and so forth. 5, a list is made of all the issues that must be addressed in the bargaining session for both sides. This list is enlarged and placed on a wall to ensure that each will be discussed individually. The goal is that both sides be fully aware of the issues the other faces. 6, identifying the interest of each issue. This is where each side explains what is to be gained by solving each issue on the chart. As these are solved, they represent gains for each side instead of losses. Developing a list of options for each issue. Each side proposes ways the issue may be met or partially solved. Usually, there are multiple approaches each side could pursue to provide a tentative solution. 8, identifying the acceptable option. After all the options have been presented, the most favorable on both sides are usually selected. And last, accepting an option as a tentative agreement. In this final step, a written agreement or legal memorandum is prepared to describe each issue and the agreement reached. Today, we have discussed the peacemaker's approach to power. As we conclude this section, we reemphasize that peacemakers respect power and influential people. Their approach, whether between individuals or groups, is to reduce the potential for abuse by sharing power among as many people as helpful and necessary. They use relational communication approaches, emphasizing openness, transparency, and participatory decision-making. Thank you for joining us today. We encourage you to download a copy of the transcript to answer questions about the lesson.